So recently, a lot of people have been asking me what champions they should pick up as a secondary pick in case Warwick gets banned or if they just want to play something else. And I think that there's a lot of champions that you could technically choose from, but I figured it'd be good to make a video that compiles a list of the 10 best options if you are a Warwick main. Now, do keep in mind with this video, it doesn't mean that you have to like these champions if you're a Warwick main. There's plenty of champions on this list that I don't like, even though I think that they're similar to Warwick, and there's plenty of champions that I love that aren't on this list. It just really is all up to the person, so go ahead and figure that out for yourself. But I figured it'd just be best to go ahead and just make a list to help you guys out and draw some comparisons between certain champions. So with that said, before we get into this video, let's take a look at our sponsor for this video. In this video, I'm letting you Warwick fans know 10 champions you might want to play in League of Legends. But there's only one game that I recommend to someone that plays LOL, and that is Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is one of the most popular mobile games on the market, and you've most likely heard about it already. Raid Shadow Legends is a dark fantasy RPG game, which has amazing graphics and hundreds of champions to choose between. One of my favorite things about the game is the unlimited action and constant reward that's not boring. There's always something to do. There's also tremendous depth and dedication by the developers, something that League of Legends fans can only dream of. I mean, they already have a new patch coming up this month with 11 brand new champions with completely unique abilities, on top of 200 brand new missions to complete with an exclusive legendary champion as a reward for completing them all. And it doesn't stop there, as they're adding 5 new levels to every single dungeon in the game, and this is all just coming this month. But speaking of champions, my favorite so far has been Kayle, a rare dark elf poison mage with an OP AoE burst spell and a random 4-hit ability that is strongest when there's only 1 or 2 enemies, so you can nuke them all in one big burst. I spend my time taking Kayle and my other champions such as Skullsworn, Crusader, and Warpriest through campaigns to level up my champions and dungeons to find better gear. But you can also battle it out with other raiders in arena mode or find fragments to get new legendary champions to the Doom Tower, along with other game modes. So if you're looking for a new fun game to play by yourself or with friends on mobile or PC, go ahead and click the link below and join Raid Shadow Legends now. On this list of champions, I'm going to include both top laners and junglers because Warwick's in a pretty good state in both lanes, and there's Warwick mains in both roles. But to start off, the first top laner that I want to talk about is going to be Kled. Kled is very similar to Warwick in the sense of he really fulfills a similar fantasy of Warwick in terms of turning fights around, and there's no one that's even really close to both Warwick and Kled at turning fights around from just a sliver of health. While Kled doesn't lifesteal his way back to high health, he does rebounds and get an instant burst that allows him to just do way more with his new abilities. So Warwick and Kled are one and the same in a lot of ways in the top lane. They're also both bruisers, both kind of divers. Kled's a little bit more of an engaged champion. He doesn't have healing, obviously. He's more bursty, but so there's definitely a few differences between the two. But in terms of fulfilling the fantasy of turning fights around completely, there's no one closer to Warwick than Kled. So I highly recommend checking him out if that's something that really gets you going in fights. The next top laner that I would recommend to a Warwick player is going to be Renekton. Now, Renekton is one of those champions that I mentioned I don't personally really like playing, but it's really hard to not draw parallels between the two in the top lane. First of all, both are lane bullies that want to snowball their advantages to make it to the mid to late game and be strong there. Second of all, they both have burst heals with their Q abilities, and I just described like Renekton. Like whenever I talk about what Warwick's playstyle is like or what he does in the top lane, I definitely do always go to Renekton. He's very similar to him. The only thing is Renekton's a little bit more resilient. It's harder to push Renekton out of lane. It's harder to gank him, kill him. He's a little bit beefier, more resilient, like I said, more stable. Warwick is going to be a little bit more of an aggressive snowballier pick, easier for him to get kill after kill after kill. and also hunt down his targets with his movement speed. But yeah, they both are very similar in a lot of ways, just in terms of how they play the game and also kind of with how they feel. Next up on the list is going to be Sett. Now, Sett doesn't really have anything that really stands out as similar to Warwick. I guess they don't really have a ton of transferable skills. It's just, I guess it really just comes down to feel. So this is going to be like probably one of the bigger stretches, but I just know that when Sett first came out, I thought he felt good immediately. Just both stat check bruisers that like to fight people all the time. I mean, Sett does also have his W, so he is able to kind of turn fights around a little bit, bait out low HP. Yeah, I guess beyond that, there really isn't that much. It's just they both feel pretty good. And I mean, Sett's just an awesome bruiser champion. And if you like Warwick, you probably like, you know, an awesome bruiser champion like Sett. So in a similar vein to Sett, there is Mordekaiser. And again, similar, it's basically all the same points as Sett. There's really not much to talk about. Mordekaiser is just an AP version. He's a little bit more easy to pick up as well. Very, very basic. He's he's more kiteable, but he also has more damage for team fights. So I've just noticed a lot of Warwick players definitely gravitate towards Mordekaiser. He's just a very simple and easy champion to pick up. So if you need a secondary pick in case Warwick is banned top lane, then or if you just need a counter pick, then Mordekaiser is a good option as well. The next few champions that I want to suggest are going to be both top laners and junglers. They can be flexed into both roles. The first one being Rengar. And Rengar is probably the closest one of the closest champions you could get to Warwick in general. Like thematically, in terms of play style, like they're hunters. And that shows in game. Rengar also has plenty of heals. Rengar, I think, is just kind of more of like a carry-oriented version of Warwick in general. In the jungle, at least. They both, just like to make picks on champions and they're just able to hunt down their targets, basically. And if you're going a bruiser Rengar build, then you're going to be healing quite a bit. So yeah, it's just going to be kind of similar to like a more of a tanky Warwick build. But in terms of top lane Rengar is an aggressive lane bully that is very vulnerable to ganks, which is, that sounds like Warwick top lane to me. So that's the champions are just very one and the same in a lot of ways. I think Rengar really is just basically a carry version of Warwick, and Warwick is more of like the tanky utility version of Rengar. And while both can be played tanky or both can be played carry or bruiser, Rengar definitely leans more towards carry. Warwick leans more towards bruiser / tank. The next jungler / top laner is going to be Hecarim. Now, I don't know how well he does in the top lane anymore, but he generally tends to pop up every once in a while, so that's why I want to mention him as a hybrid. But Hecarim, I've always said, is basically AoE Warwick. He does everything Warwick does, but better because it's all AoE. He has really good dueling power. He has AoE heals, AoE clear. His E movement speed bonus, it's basically like Warwick's W, except for it works in combat. It can be used as an engage or an escape. His ultimate is basically Warwick's R plus E combo. Like, he literally does everything Warwick wants to do as a champion. And it feels kind of unfair when Hecarim's in the meta playing Warwick against him, because the champion's literally just better in a lot of ways, kit-wise. Numbers-wise, though, that's where Warwick's able to make up some ground. He has more healing, more sustain. And if he gets ahead, he's going to be more oppressive in the 1v1. So and also Warwick does have more lockdown potential as well. So he's able to utilize the CC more in team fights to just kind of lock down one target. And also Warwick does have a skew. So that is like, Warwick does have plenty of things going for him. But Hecarim is the closest champion in the game to Warwick. Him and Rengar are the top two for sure. But yeah, I think Hecarim is probably the closest to Warwick in the game. So if you like Warwick, then you'll notice that Hecarim feels very, very similar. And the last top laner that I'm going to mention on this list, that can also be played in the jungle, of course, is going to be Volibear, who in a lot of ways is similar as to why I recommend Mordekaiser, since he's just pretty straightforward and simple to pick up and play. He is a very stat check champion, a frontline champion. I think if you like playing like a more of a tanky Warwick type playstyle, you're not someone who's very aggressive with Warwick, you don't like to outplay people mechanically, you're probably going to prefer someone like Volibear, just because he's more straightforward and he's got more of that Juggernaut tank vibe to him. But again, he's very stat check, which is in a lot of ways similar. He's able to gap close with his Q. His W is very similar to Warwick's Q, and I guess a little bit. I don't want to say very similar, but it's similar, obviously, and he has plenty of CC, so he's another champion that I recommend. Now, moving on to true junglers, we will start off with Vi, who, I'm not going to lie, is a champion I don't really have much experience playing. I just know that she looks and feels in a lot of ways like Warwick. I think her playstyle is kind of similar. She's definitely a champion that likes to make picks. Her ultimate, obviously, is similar in a lot of ways, locking down one target. It's more similar to old Warwick ultimate, honestly, compared to new Warwick ults, but it's still very similar. And again, another just stat check bruiser champion. You'll notice a theme with all these champions. Warwick is a champion that likes to duel and skirmish a lot, so I'm going to recommend champions that like to duel and skirmish a lot, generally speaking. So Vi is one of them. And next up, we have Master Yi, who is a champion that holds such a special place in my heart. Now, as far as Master Yi's state in solo queue, obviously he's not a champion that Riot likes to really buff up much because he's really oppressive, but he is always good below Diamond, I would say. So yeah, he's always a really strong solo queue champion to play. But a little backstory here. The reason why I ever even became a Warwick main to begin with is because I used to be a Master Yi player. Basically what happened is in season 3 is I saw a Cowsip video, one of Cowsip's first video he ever posted. He posted on Reddit showing how to outplay like Malphite ultimate and flashes and everything with Master EQ. And this blew my mind at the time. I did not think that that was even possible to outplay people with Master E. I thought he was just a noob champion. But to see all that skill expression really just changed things for me, and it made me want to become a Master E main and flex some mechanics that way. So fast forward when Warwick came out, I saw Warwick's rework, and I was like, his Q can follow flashes like Master E. I love that. I love that type of ability. So I'm going to pick up Warwick. I guess I don't want to say I was going to pick up Warwick. In my mind, I was just thinking I was just going to play him. I was interested in playing him, but I didn't think I was going to main him at the time. And after playing some Warwick a little bit over time, I started to notice all of his playmaking potential, and I saw like the skill cap of this champion. I knew it was higher than what people thought. So with that in mind, I definitely wanted to do something like what Cowsip did to me. Cowsip made a noob champion look awesome to me. I wanted to do the same with Warwick, and thus I'm playing Warwick still 4 years later after his rework. But yeah, Mastery's Q, Warwick's Q, very, very similar. Also, Mastery is also a duelist. He's obviously more of a carry-oriented champion. He's more late-game oriented. You just power farm through the early game. Don't really gank much. But as far as, like Q mechanics and stuff are concerned, definitely very, very similar. Along with the just the dueling power that Mastery has to offer. And the last champion that I'm going to recommend in this video, which by the way, I could recommend many, many, many more champions. I'm just trying to keep this down to 10. But basically any bruiser, stat check, duelist, skirmisher will really work, or will be at least somewhat close to Warwick. But I recommend the last person that I recommend is going to be Shyvana, specifically AD Shyvana. And AD Shyvana has actually been one of my most played picks in the last few years. I don't think any of you guys are aware of how many games I've played with Shyvana in the last like 3 or so years, but yeah, she's always been one of my most played. AP Shyvana is a little bit different of a playstyle, so that's why I emphasize AD, although you can play both for sure. But I'm going to be real. AD Shyvana, extremely brain dead. One of the easiest champions I've ever played in League. But that's kind of what I love about her is if I'm ever like tilted and I need to reset, I can always just sit back. I can just play Shyvana and just play a more of a methodical playstyle, power farming as hard as I can throughout the early game, and then looking for duels and team fights in the mid to late game. But yeah, she's just an auto attack based stat stick basically. So I mean that's honestly really it. But I definitely think that's like she feels pretty comfortable for Warwick players to pick up. So that's why I recommend her. And of course, you can transition to AP later on. But that basically sums up this video. Those are all these champions I recommend. So let me know in the comments any champions you think that you would recommend, you know, to Warwick mains. What champions you like to play that you find similar, or any champions that maybe you disagree with in this video. There were some that I did actually leave out in this video. So like Xin Zhao, I left out kind of. I was really close to putting Xin Zhao in, but I left him out because I thought maybe he was a little bit too gank heavy. And so there's a little bit of a playstyle difference. And then also Trundle. Trundle I left out just mainly because Trundle's bad. Trundle in general is actually a champion who is pretty similar to Warwick in a lot of ways. But yeah, he's just bad. And he's been bad for a while, so I don't think that's changing anytime soon. So even though he can be played both top and jungle, I wouldn't really recommend him in general. But yeah, so that's it for champions that Warwick mains or Warwick players in general might like to pick up.